they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Poppin' till it's swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Poppin' till it's swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Got my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Poppin' till it's swilling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your daily vitamins or your daily dose of Diddy. And so as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so my legal expert, Gavin Richard Esquire, is supposed to be popping in at some point. I'm not sure when. I did talk to him, and he did say that he was going to join us for a few minutes out of his busy schedule. Okay, so if you all have some questions, you can ask him, because people were clearly getting on my nerves earlier. Okay. So that all been said, before we get started, let's have a brief word from our sponsor at 12 Tribes. Okay, so we can get into it. Okay, lights up, everyone. Please hit the like button, share, and all of that. Thank you.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts. You can also find it at Walmart.com. And for the men, she also has a lovely beard oil, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. Okay, so don't forget about that. Now let's get ready to get into it, because this was another very eventful day as it pertains to the Diddy trial. And I find it all very interesting because you see, hold on, I'm going to change something real quick. Did y'all know Diddy? Hold on, what is this right here? I'm gonna take this part out. Hold on. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, with that all being said, Diddy is a hot mess, okay? At the end of the day, I mean, we all know it. We all know it. But I think he was obsessed with Obama, okay? I think he was literally obsessed with Obama because why was this man taking pills that were shaped like Obama? I mean, that were looked like the image of Obama. What's really going on here? Okay, so we're going to get into it. Hold on. I'm trying to fix something real quick. Here we go. Okay, let me make sure I have that right. Okay, there we go. So, with that all being said, let's talk about it. Let's see who's all in here, first of all. Okay, Nessie X is here. Terry Hinton, Claudette, Aqua Girl Rising is in the house. All right. All right, Red Tea, Pretty Wings. Okay, writing for music. All right, let's get into it. April. Okay, everybody hit the like button. Thank you all kindly. Shout out to everyone in here. Hey, JC. All right, Terry Hitton's in the house. Okay, so shout out Anita Harrell. I see you, beloved. Nandy. So shout out to all of my loyal worlds and everyone tuned into Queen. And a big shout out to my moderators for putting in work. As soon as they get in here, do I have any moderators? I know Desmond just got off work, my chief moderator. He'll be here shortly. So anyway, let's get into it because you all know that Kid Cudi's supposed to be testifying, right? Yeah, I know. I was shocked too. I was shocked too. But let's talk about some of the things that they discussed today in the proceedings from this morning. For those of you who missed it, we talked about this earlier. We talked about how Diddy extorted Cassie's parents, specifically her mom, for $20,000, okay, with this nefarious self, okay, because he was upset because Cassie was dating Kid Cudi, and he wanted the mom to give him $20,000 or else, okay, and just a bunch of nefariousness. So with that all been said, let's get into it. I'm going to go, hold on, let me pull this up here. Okay, so Diddy trial live updates. Exotic dancer named the Punisher, hired for up to 12 freak-offs. He testifies in wild detail. Okay, now we already got some of the details, so let's get into it. A federal agent who raided Sean Diddy Combs' Miami estate is on the stand in the disgraced rap mogul's federal trafficking trial in Manhattan on Tuesday, where he's expected to give details about Diddy's depraved freak-off and sex marathons. At the center of the case, not marathons. Now, the jury was shown photos taken during a raid of Diddy's home in Miami that had toys, bottles of baby oil, and parts of AR-15 firearms. Rapper Kid Cudi, born Scott Muscudi, also is expected to take the stand late Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. Now, or Thursday. Now, I can't wait for this. I really want to hear what Kid Cudi's going to say. Now, Diddy, of course, has pleaded not guilty to any of these charges, okay? And he faces life in prison if convicted, 15 years to life. And of course, unfortunately for us, this isn't going to be, it hasn't been broadcast, okay? Now, listen to this. So Sheree, this is the Sheree Hayes, that's his name, aka the Punisher, okay? He testified that he recently published In Search of Freezer Meat. Okay, this is a men's self-help book about erectile dysfunction by way of an anus with a P implant that he said features Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura. I say, what now? Hayes told prosecutors that sexual encounters, okay, Combs and Ventura he told them about the sexual encounters Combs and Ventura had, and they're editorialized in the book in 6.5 pages, where he called them a married wealthy couple. He said he sensationalized describing Ventura in the book, saying it's real genuine medical advice, but it's framed as me telling personal stories, he said. Now, this is what he talked about on the stand. He said, when I was going through the issue, it was hard for me to find a relatable source to help me with the problem. So I decided to write a book. Now, remember, the reason Diddy and Cassie stopped fooling with him and Diddy didn't hire him anymore is because he couldn't finish the job or he couldn't get it up. Okay, you know how Diddy felt about that, according to Cassie, that if they couldn't do what they were supposed to do, or not Cassie, I'm sorry, that would be the male S worker by the name of Daniel Phillip, said that if they didn't finish the job, then they didn't get paid. Okay, so after he couldn't get it up because he was suffering from erectile dysfunction, clearly, that's when they stopped hiring him. Okay, so anyway, he says that he wrote about all of this in a book. Okay, he talked about, he used personal stories where I tried to make light of the issues and comical references that could possibly be relatable. Hayes said earlier that he had experienced sexual performance issues when he was around Combs and Ventura, specifically experiencing anxiety and maintaining an erection. He testified that he used Cialis, Viagra, and even a corner store pill to try to fight the issue, but ultimately said he had performance issues due to Combs directing him during sex. I could see that happening. Okay, you're sitting there, it's supposed to flow natural. It's just supposed to go natural, right? And somebody's sitting there telling you to do it this way, lean back, lean forward, lie this way, lift her legs up, arch your back. I mean, can you imagine? Pour more oil, like he's a whole corn with a P director. Okay, who could get busy during that under those circumstances? All right, and let alone with some weirdo sitting over in the corner in the dark, in the farthest corner of the room, wearing a baseball cap and a bandana under his eyes, looking like a member of the Taliban. Please pay attention. This is all crazy. Okay, this is all crazy. Uncle Girl Ryder said he is annoying as F. I mean, tell me about it. Can you imagine? Yeah. Reggie said, right, it should be organic. Exactly. I mean, just think about it, because remember the first episode that Cassie talked about when she said the guy came to the room and then she told him, oh, my husband, he's going to be there. He's not gay. He just wants to watch. And then the guy said he comes in the room, Diddy's sitting there with a robe on and a bandana over his face, right under his eyes. Like, get out of here with all this. Here comes Gavin. Okay, y'all can go in on Gavin if y'all want to. Y'all can go in on, hey, Gavin.
What's going on, Queen? How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Go in on me for
not because they've been trying to get you on here for days.
I know you called me and told me about it. I've been indisposed at the moment.
I know it. I know you've been busy. Yeah. Well, you look nice.
Thank you. It's very.
You just coming from court?
I am. Literally, when you called me, I was getting out of court, and I've been in court all day and all week, and it's not going to let up, unfortunately. So
I know it is, and you already told me. Okay, so I'm glad you're here. Okay, so listen, I'm just going to run through this briefly. Then they may have some questions they want you to answer. Okay, and then I have a couple of questions. I know you don't have a lot of time, so with that all being said, so anyway, as I was saying, the first instance when Cassie was talking about the guys, or the guy was describing how Diddy was sitting in a corner wearing a robe with the bandana on and the cap and all of that, just directing the whole little scenario. I mean, it's just all so crazy. Terry Hinn said, looking like Dapper Dan, or looking dapper, Gavin. All right. So now here's the thing, Gavin. They were trying to go in on me this morning. A few people were, because I told them, I think that Diddy is involved in a RICO and that he acts like a whole gangster. Now, I know you're going to beg to differ. I know it's coming, but let me just say this. Hear me out. Hear me out. So, you know how the mob would extort people? Yeah, you know how the mob would extort people. Okay, so Diddy extorts people, in my opinion, specifically Cassie's mother. And then also, I told you all, Reggie said, we'll take it easy on you, Gavin. I find that interesting, Reggie, because y'all never take it easy on me. But anyway, basically blowing up cars and all these things that have been alleged. And mind you, Gavin, Kid Cudi's going to be testifying Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, so can you please, Gavin, I almost called you Diddy. Can you please give us a little insight?
I look like I'm wearing a black hood. I don't take Obama-shaped pills. That's something I didn't even hear. Okay, go ahead. What's your question?
Well, here's the thing. Can you give us some insight into where do I want to start? Okay, first off, with the RICO, okay, as far as the S trafficking, because we all were saying, and I had to agree that it was sounding like a lot of domestic violence. But upon looking in my organized crime book from college, and I was reading through there last night, saying, let me see if I can make this all make sense. So it looks like Diddy, in my opinion, meets the elements and criteria for a RICO.
Okay, so that's your question. Do I think he meets the elements of a RICO?
Right, and if so, why or why not?
No, no, I haven't. I don't agree with that. I have, and that's because I have not seen that evidence so far that has come out at the trial. What has come out and so forth, when you're talking about the paying of workers or sex workers, as they say, it's come up and looks like it's soliciting prostitutes. But my understanding, when you're talking about human trafficking or so forth, that involves a level of, in a sense, a level of kidnapping, meaning if someone is brought to another place with or against their own will. In my understanding, these people were paid monies in which to do so. Now, let me be clear about this. There's a difference between immorality and illegality, and what you can be accused of and you go to court for you may be an immoral and low down person. That does not mean the question that you actually broke the law. It depends. So for instance, lying in and of itself is not a crime, but if I lie on a witness stand or I lie on an affidavit, that is criminal because it's perjury. And the government has to prove all the elements of the crime. So what they have done so far is, I have seen, is more throw sand on a beach than anything, but nothing necessarily that actually proves every element that fits of a RICO statute. So they would have to, and you got to keep in mind something, you have to keep in consideration, there's also statute of limitations with some of these, because with typically with a RICO, if they're stating extortion, there is a 10-year statute of limitation period with that. So when you mentioned Cassie's email, the email with the mom, and we were talking on the phone about this, while if he did and I didn't read the email, I just heard the story and I was listening to ABC News about it a little bit before I came on in here. Supposedly, he's asking $20,000 to recoup on monies that he had given, I guess, putting down on Cassie's musical career or so forth. And the mom and the father actually had to take out a home equity loan in which to come up with that. But then the ABC News reporter also reported that once they sent the money, was interesting, they actually got the money back, which I understand that part. So whether it may not necessarily meet all of the elements of extortion, and even if it did, if it happened in 2011, if from 2011 to 2021, that's 10 years. So it would be outside the statute, which might explain why Diddy's attorneys did not cross-examine Cassie's mom. They probably didn't believe it held any weight in regards to that, because the jury is going to have to consider all of this stuff and everything, not just one aspect of it, but they have to consider everything in regards to the relationship, especially the relationship of Cassie, her testimony, how she sent the text messages back to Diddy even after she was with her husband and was still talking about how she loved him. So they got to consider that. Kid Cudi's testimony, I think that might be interesting. I would like to see what happens with that. Of course, whether or not Diddy had actually any role, and I know you believe he did, in what happened with the car. Of course, I'm wondering, and I'm sure he's going to testify to that aspect. I'm wondering what exactly they'll say what happens. It all depends on the testimonies. Now, this is a 6 to 8 week trial that's coming up. Obviously, the defense is going to have a chance to present their own witnesses. I'm thinking about with Diddy in regards to his defense. I don't know, and maybe you can help me, Queen, how many witnesses the government is supposed to have.
I don't know, but so far they've had 10. And that's a lot for just 2 weeks, for this to be the second week. And we're just starting the second weweek. It's already been 10.
And someone said, am I related? Just to clarify, I am not related to Dawn Richard. I know she's from here, and that's my name. The names are familiar, but no, there's no relation to Dawn. I do know her father, Frank from because he's a choir director and he did a lot of stuff at my school at St. Aug. But no, I'm not related to them.
Gavin is absolutely related to Dawn Richard. He's not trying to claim her because she told all them damn lies on the stand yesterday. Please, Betsy.
They ought to get you on the stand from Dawn to that party once.
Oh my God, Gavin! Why would you bring that up? No, but seriously, he's not related to her. I already asked him about that y'all days ago, but yes, he knows her father. But Gavin, that's a good one. Okay, you are low down.
Wait, you know I do stand up for a living. I was in Atlanta. Okay. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Gavin's busted me out because I went to a Diddy party years ago in Cancun, Mexico. It was an all-white party, and I left early, like everybody else said. Okay, now with that all
he left before the after party.
Exactly. Okay, exactly. Okay, so now here's the thing, Gavin. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you don't agree with that, but here's the thing. I didn't realize, because I was thinking, okay, if they're bringing up Kid Cudi's car, that actually happened in 2011. So I'm thinking that should be past the statute. But guess what? I didn't realize that there's no statute of limitations on arson. That was really news to me. Okay, arson does not have a statute of limitations, meaning it can be prosecuted at any time after the crime is committed, provided there is enough evidence to support the case. Now, I don't think they want to prosecute him for that, but I think what they're trying to do by bringing up these things, I think they're trying to show that this is the type of things that he did, and so this is what makes him be have a RICO enterprise, right? So that's what they're doing.
Trying to do is introduce essentially what they're trying to do is introduce prior bad acts.
Yes.
Which is in there. And of course, there is, if the state is going to, or the federal government is trying to introduce that, the defense usually has to be put on notice about it. And of course, they can file what's called motion in limines.
And they did. They filed he filed a pretrial motion in limine, and I had forgotten about that. I was telling them this morning. I actually read it. He was trying to keep certain evidence out. Now I see why. Okay, correct. So okay. Correct. Now that's what I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt you.
Well, I was just going to say that's what Reggie's question was pertaining to, because I have been telling them for about a month now, I think, or at least 2 or 3 weeks, about prior bad acts. I was saying that that's why Harvey Weinstein's conviction was overturned, because they allowed about 3 women to come in there and testify against him about things that happened previously that were prejudicial as far as they were concerned. And so upon appeal, he got the conviction overturned in a new trial. And I said the same thing's going on with Diddy. Now, here's the thing. I specifically brought up Dawn Richard when I found out she was going to testify, because she sued him civilly, and that hasn't, they haven't gone to court for that yet, but she sued him and accused him of assault and some other things or whatever. And so the fact that she came in and testified, yesterday, I said that is going to be grounds for them to have an appeal, to use that on appeal, saying the prior bad acts. But also this thing with Kid Cudi, I didn't think about that. So that's a prior bad act too. Yeah. With bringing up the arson. Or alleged arson, because we don't know if he did it, but
right. And if I could just say this, usually arson is really a state crime. Mm-hmm. So what you just said right there, when you said there's no statute of limitations on that, it depends what state you're in, because certain crimes in certain areas, certain states, depending on there's a statute of limitations. There is no statute of limitations, I know, on homicides, for instance, especially if it's premeditated. That is, you can come back 40, 50 years on something like that. In certain things, and I won't name them, but crimes that affect, let's just say, minors or affect women, and there may be exceptions where those are extended longer. So I don't know necessarily why, with the arson aspect, but what they're trying to essentially, and this is the problem I have. I'm not saying that Diddy, I've never said Diddy's a good guy. I don't think that. I think he's a scumbag. And a lot of, I've represented, especially in my line of work, and I'll say this, and even my client said some of them are scumbags too. A lot of them are. But the question is, can the government prove beyond a reasonable doubt every element of the crime that you are alleging? Because I've had cases, Queen, and I'll just give you an example. I had a domestic violence case about a year ago that I had with a client who, I'll just say, he was a drug dealer and he did things that were wrong. However, he was accused of striking his girlfriend. Well, there were when I had the pictures, there was no cuts, no bruises. The girl admitted she made the whole thing up. And I asked on the witness stand why. She said, well, I wanted to get back at him for looking at other girls on Facebook.
What?
Now, and she called 911 on him and had the police come after him, which she did was a crime in and of itself. Because if you make a false swearing to a police officer where 911 testifies, well, that's a felony. So the point that I'm making with it is that we all have to, and we carefully just look at what the evidence and what they're saying and how it ties and it can prove what is the crimes that they're saying that's happened. And the government has to prove every element, the clear definition of it. If you said I committed a theft, and that's that's the taking of anything of value belonging to another with the specific intent to permanently deprive, then you got to prove all of that directly, and they have to prove directly the RICO and how it relates to Diddy. If there was someone who were a buffer to Diddy, it might be unlikely they could prove that. If they had someone directly who said, yes, Diddy was telling me to extort this person or something like that, and depending on how credible it is, then that's something different that they might be able to get him on. So far, I haven't just seen the smoking gun just yet.
Okay. All right. So let me say this.
All right.
So you haven't seen the smoking gun. Now, Reggie's question was, I think you may have already answered it. He said, my question is how prior bad acts can influence a jury's verdict when in the indictment no bad acts like domestic violence are mentioned.
So you're saying how can prior bad acts influence a jury's verdict when in the indictment? Well, remember
the bad acts that they're talking about, no domestic violence is mentioned, even though we see domestic violence.
Correct. Well, the indictment from the grand jury, a grand jury indictment, the old saying is you can indict a ham sandwich.
Right.
A grand jury indictment doesn't cost that much or take that much, I should say. It depends on the facts and circumstances of that jury and that element. Whereas when we're talking about a actual jury that's going forth and hearing the criminal crimes, they're bringing that in. The judge has greater discretion, of course, to limit certain things that come into the court and so forth, or what the prosecutors are trying to bring in. So Diddy's attorneys filed that motion in limine to keep prejudicial stuff out. At the same time, the judges probably denied some parts of their motion, allowed stuff to come in. Well, if you're a defense attorney, you're making, and I believe they are doing this, and this is a very competent, I believe Diddy has very competent lawyers. I have to give credit where credit is due. They have been noting and objecting to preserve the record on appeal with certain stuff. So that video with Cassie, for instance, that they tried to bring in, they were trying to say that Diddy has a history of violent behavior, which I don't doubt he has. But so far, as I stated, that's domestic violence. How do they take that to a RICO or trafficking? That's another question. So it ultimately, the jury is going to have to, and probably at the end of everything, look back at all of this and then make a determination based off that. And the judge is going to have to instruct them on certain stuff. Of course, I'm sure they've even asked him how often, if you've seen the videos before, and they admitted yes, and the jurors were still on that. But he had to probably tell them, well, you've seen this video in public, but you understand he's not on trial for domestic violence. So,
right.
Yeah.
So they were saying that proves coercion, though.
What proves coercion?
How he was beating Cassie at that hotel. And then other witnesses who testified to him beating Cassie. They said that all proves coercion.
But you got to say coercion for what? That doesn't prove. It proved that if by him beating and smacking up Cassie, like I said again, yes, that's assault. Yes, that is a battery. Coercion to do what exactly?
To make her have them freak offs, Gavin. You know what time it is.
To have a freak. Okay, and then when you look at the cross-examination of it, and she was forced to admit as well, there were text messages where she was actually agreeing to participate in that as well.
This is true. This is true.
So you have to look at it both ways. Well, yes, they were in abuse. They were in an abusive relationship, or I should say, let's say a toxic relationship. A lot of the celebrities, Queen, and you know this as well, are in these, especially in Hollywood. They're in a lot of these. They do a lot of these stuffs before. They do have all of these types of wild parties where they're at the Playboy mansion, or they're at somebody's mansion and they're sharing partners and so forth.
Wait a minute, I'm just trying to figure out why you said, and Queen, you know this.
Well, I'm saying, I mean,
I'm just trying to figure out why you preface it with Queen, and you know this. Like,
what
I've been to the Playboy. Continue.
What I mean by that, I don't mean by person trying to insinuate personal experience or something like that. Wink, wink. I'm saying most people, most people know. I'm saying a lot of people, especially when you report on, I've seen you report on stuff with Hollywood and so forth.
Right.
I've heard stories about celebrities, like perfect example, Will and Jada having an open relationship, or some other people. I personally, so I'm looking at that and listening to it. So just to get back and focusing on Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie necessarily, you have to say, when you say coercion, again, coerced to do what exactly, whether this is against their will, because you're also saying, well, you felt threatened or you felt coerced to do this, but at the same time, you're forced to admit by text messages you were partaking in some of this. And I believe Cassie and Diddy were even sued. If I'm not, you can correct
they were.
That. So she could have been charged if they wanted to as a principal. But what I think they did, they made her testify as their star witness, which she was. So you got to a jury's got to factor all of this in, and you got to remember this too. The jurors are going to be there for 6 to 8 weeks without their families, being around their friends, and they're hearing this. They might get fatigued. They likely would be fatigued from hearing all about this stuff. So, yeah.
Miss J said, if folks would read the RICO indictment, they explain what's the illegal part and exactly what laws were broken. Well, we know that. We did read the indictment. Every lawsuit that has been filed against Diddy since Cassie's, including Cassie's on down since then, we've read them all in here. I get all the legal documents and all of the indictments, the superseding, all of that. We've read all of that. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, I think that some of the things are possibly a reach, but I do think that Diddy was coercing people to do things, right? I think there was some coercion going on. I think not with just Cassie, with other people. When he's telling people, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this, intimidating and threats and all of that stuff. Okay, that's force and coercion. When he's telling people, for example, let me think of somebody else who basically says they were threatened. Okay, for one, Carrie Morgan, he hit her upside the head with a hanger. Okay, because she wouldn't tell him what was going on with Cassie or who Cassie was cheating with or something like that. Okay. Then
that's battery.
Okay, that's battery. Okay, well, let's talk about who else. Give me a second to think, but definitely extortion. What do you think about him asking Cassie's mom for the money? Now, you said that he gave the money back, but even if he gave the money back, that's still extortion.
Well, I had said already. But remember, I also said earlier that if it was in 2011, it's still outside the statute of limitations. Even if, if you blackmail somebody to get something of monetary gain, that would be extortion. That is correct. But the question was, and I don't know if Diddy's lawyers, they may have filed them, and I know you said they filed a motion. If they did file a motion on the mom's testimony about that being that if they had requested it be stricken or anything like that, and or ruled that it should be limited, then that would be an issue. Now, again,
what about bribery?
You say bribery with the security guard? The bribery with the security guard issue, again, that's not an element to a RICO.
There was actually two things. Bribery,
you have to prove coercion, you have to prove extortion of some sort. When you say RICO, well, we got to look at,
I'm pretty sure. Hold on.
But you have to be able to say this too, even with the police, even with that security guard, and I know what you're talking about, they actually cross-examined, if I'm not mistaken, the security guard afterwards about it, and he said he had the video on his phone. He had
he did. He screen recorded it.
So and he was law enforcement. So he had a duty. He could have then, if he wanted to, still release that. Now, regarding the still again, when you're talking about an element of a RICO, you have to be able to still. We got to remember what the RICO law was created for. that was to go after the mafia.
The mafia. Yeah, I
That's
explained
what
all
I
that this morning.
created. And you have to be able to prove, even if that person, well, someone said I'm wrong. Well, you're not. I don't know if you're a lawyer, but you probably likely are not. I'm telling you what the law is. You
Yeah,
have
please
to.
just ignore them.
It's
Okay.
about,
I mean,
this is
people that
not
didn't even go to
about
college think they're smarter than a lawyer. Continue. But anyway.
This is not. This is not about personal feelings. This is
That's
about.
right. Some of y'all listen, hold on. Let me just say this. Zabak the Midget said, I see multiple lawyers say Rico already proven. Well, here's the thing. It hasn't been proven to the jury. It hasn't been proven to the jury. That's the thing. They haven't laid out the evidence for the jury. Now, that being said, continue, Gavin.
Well, I would just say this. What lawyers are you talking about? Because I've spoken with Judge Joe Brown, who is a former judge, who is a former assistant district attorney, private lawyer. He says, and he even saw the indictment as well.
And also you're friends with Michael Jackson's attorney. He was Michael Jackson's attorney, Bill Cosby's attorney. What's his name? Maserati?
Tom
Mesereau?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has not been well. Look, it has not been proven to the jury. You may think it's proven by some of the
snippets. It hasn't been proven to the jury.
That's not how. Right, and that's why, as an attorney, especially, and I will say this. Yeah, am I a little skewed? I'm a defense attorney, so I try to look at, of course, due process and presumption of innocence until certain things have been proven guilty. It has not been proven guilty just yet, and this is not me. And like I said again, I think Diddy is a scumbag. Yes, I think he engaged in nefarious behavior with this girl. He certainly with other people. I think he's a spoiled brat. I think he's a brat who likes to have his way. That's what I have seen from a lot of these celebrities. They think they can get away with talking to people a certain way, slapping around. The question, though, I'm trying to get at is, do I think it amounts to him having a criminal enterprise? Because that's what RICO essentially it stands for, is that this person element, you have to be able to show, did this person have the intent to do all of these things and haven't created an organization in which to have a criminal enterprise. I
have a question for Zabak. It's not to cut you off. Zabak said several white lawyers online said it's proven out. Why did you have to express that they're white? Because they're white and right? Is that what you're saying? Like, why do you just say several lawyers online? Why did you have to specify that they're white? Is that supposed to make where they're staying more valid? I just have questions. But anyway, continue. Now, the bottom line is, RICO or not, I said that in my opinion, Diddy fits the elements of a RICO. None of this has been proven to the jury. The only thing they've had on trial right now, been talking about for the most part, is the S trafficking and the freak offs. That's what they've been focusing on. They've not brought in any evidence to the jury thus far. Okay, this is only the beginning of the second week. Remember, they haven't brought in any evidence to prove all of these other elements that they have to prove. But I do believe that they will be able to prove them. Okay, continue.
And Zabak said, I said black lawyers. No, I didn't say black lawyers. I said I've spoken to Judge Joe Brown.
That's what he said. And by the way, I also mentioned that he's friends with Michael Jackson's lawyer, who's white. So he didn't say anything about race. That's what you said. But continue.
Right. And I was laughing when you said Maserati is Tom. I haven't spoken to Tom in a while, but many of the
Don't tell him I called him fat, by the way.
No, and many of the stuff that I'm seeing so far, it does mirror exactly in some way, shape, or form with Bill Cosby's thing and what he went through, because there was even a statute of limitations defense in his case, Queen. They stated that crime supposedly happened in 2003. The prosecutors filed the bill of information or indictment a day before the statute of limitations was to expire, but his defense attorney said a statute of limitations defense. Now, yes, Bill Cosby's out of jail. Bill Cosby, essentially the case was overturned because the prosecutors had an agreement, but what it did to his image is another thing, because what they're trying to do is go after black men. And we see this, and now I mentioned the race part. We're seeing this now with the Smokey Robinson and Shannon Sharp and a couple of other people. But as it relates to what I'm seeing,
Shannon Sharp brought this on himself. About him.
Well, yeah, that's.
But I will say I agree with you, and let me say why I agree with you. First of all, I do agree that they are going after black men specifically, because here's the thing: Mike Jeffries the former CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch. Now,
Yes.
I was the first person to mention that this man was going to be indicted, even before he was ever indicted. I said this about 2 years ago because he was doing all this S trafficking with these young guys or whatever. He was just doing some of the same things that Diddy is accused of.
Okay.
But here's the difference. He was given a bond or bail, even though he was also accused of witness intimidation. So they gave him a bail, not Diddy. And then now he's not even going to face trial. You know why? First of all, they said they gave him a bail because of his age. He's like 80 or something like that. They said he's not a flight risk. I'm sorry. He could still flee. He has, he's able to get private jets and all that stuff. But now they're saying they're not even going to, he's not even going to go to court, I don't think, or be on trial because they said he's incompetent to stand trial because they said, oh, conveniently he has Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that.
Well,
Make it all make sense.
Well, they just had recently a priest here in New Orleans who was convicted of doing things with minors. And interesting enough, he was diagnosed with dementia. But nevertheless, they still try, and the prosecutor still moved forward and bringing charges against him. And he pled guilty. I don't know how they were able to do that with his mental conditions, if anything, but he ended up dying actually not even a couple of weeks after the case. So wasn't really got true justice, but it was a symbolic thing for them.
Right.
But the reason why I mentioned Shannon Sharpe, though, still, yeah, he brought it on himself, but at the same time, it looked like a lot of the stuff that they had was, that, especially with the Tony Busby being attached with it and the girl recording him and so forth, seemed like it was, certainly there was a setup in some way involved. But
I believe it was set up. Darn right it was set up, but he should have known better. That's his own fault for being stupid. Okay. And here's the thing. If a man wants to come and get you and you've given them all the ammo to come and do it, that's your fault. Because the bottom line is you should be careful what you do because you know what world we live in.
Right. What about
what world you live in at the end of the day. But let me just say, thank you, Mally C, for getting the channel 5 memberships, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, now finish what you were saying, Gavin.
Oh, I was asking, what about Smokey?
Smokey Robinson, 85 years old, and here we come with 4 women. Well, I have several questions because I read that lawsuit too. When these things come out, I read all of the lawsuits online. Now, what I thought was interesting is the fact that all of these women, first of all, how did they know each other? Some of them worked at different times, but why did they stay? Now, people could say, oh, they were immigrants, they were illegal, whatever. They didn't have to stay working for him. They could go find jobs elsewhere. Why would you stay at a job where somebody's raping you on a regular basis, being mean to you, beating you, or whatever they claimed that he was doing all this stuff? Why would you stay there? Like, that's crazy to me. You couldn't just leave. So I have questions about their story, and some of it doesn't even make sense to me as far as I was concerned. Now, we'll see when it all comes out, but I don't know that I believe that. It just all sounded just like, I don't know. It could be a money grab. I don't want to say it is, but I just have questions. I'm not going to say that I believe that right now.
But notice the familiarity with most, if not all, of these cases. There's a relationship of some sorts, and it goes on for a period like with either 5, 10, or 15 years. That's the pattern that's happening. And I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing that here. And in some in some stuff with Diddy, I'm seeing that some things necessarily are reach. I think there's celebrity that plays a role in a lot of these cases that they're trying when they want to prosecute these stars and athletes for stuff like this. And again, it's going to be a long trial, Queen. So there very well may be some stuff I look at and that might change me and say, well, whoa, that's interesting. Or if they have that, just so far from what I'm hearing, it sounds like and someone asked me, do I think they just want to know Diddy's sexual history? Well, that's all that's come out for the most part. A lot of that stuff is what's come out from this. So, I mean, and it could be, there's going to be more again, but I'm just waiting to hear for it. So that's my take on that. But I did say I had at least 30 minutes to get out because I had to run to another event.
Right.
Yeah, and if you go live Friday, I'm likely to come on and talk.
Okay. Thank you, Gavin. I appreciate you for stopping by, beloved, and answering some of the questions that some of the viewers had.
Sure, anytime. It's no problem. I'm glad. I haven't even gone back to my live stream. I've been so busy and tied up, but I've also been dealing with issues. Everybody knows with this.
Mm-hmm.
With this,
Yeah.
I won't platform, so I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
But
Yeah, I know. All right, beloved. Well, I'm glad you could stop by, and I'll be giving you a call. So I'll definitely be going live Friday.
just one final thing. Somebody asked me what would happen to Diddy's assets if he goes to prison. Oh, yes. So I'll just answer that if I can just quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Remember this, y'all. There's something called civil forfeiture.
Yeah, I
So,
told them all about that, and they're gonna take all Diddy stuff.
so everything, and that might be another reason why Diddy didn't want to take any type of plea offers, because if you admit to any guilt of some kind, then all the money that he has, everything he has that they state was a part of this, they could also take it from his children, money that he might have in a trust account for them. Those are the ones that's actually going to be real affected. And even if Diddy is, let's say for the sake of argument, he's acquitted, from a professional perspective, there is nothing P. Diddy is going to be, and even a social perspective, he's going to be do with anybody. He is kryptonite. He is cooked. He's done in terms of he can't make any more movies or anything like that, or do any music, because nobody's going to want to support him.
Nope. Even if they want to, they're not gonna do it because they don't want to have their name.
No.
They don't want to get canceled. It's like when Keke Palmer she did an interview with Jonathan Majors, and then before she could post it, people were going in on her about him being a domestic violence abuser and all this, that. So she never even posted it.
Yeah.
That's how that goes.
Right. All right, Queen.
All right, beloved. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye. All right. So that all being said, now let's get back into what I was saying about Kid Cudi. Okay. Or was I hold on, where was I at? Was I talking about Kid Cudi as of yet? I was talking about Hayes. What Hayes, the guy, Sharia Hayes, aka the Punisher. So here's what he was talking about. He testified that he used Cialis, Viagra, and even a corner store pill to try to get rid of his erectile dysfunction, supposedly. Okay, and then he talked about the book that he wrote, and he's mentioning Cassie and Diddy. He called them a wealthy couple. Didn't say about anything about using their names, I don't believe. Now, also, they say Muscudi, the rapper whose real name is Scott Muscudi, Kid Cudi, okay, is expected to testify against Diddy this week. He could be testifying Wednesday, but more likely he'll end up on the witness stand on Thursday, according to prosecutors. And this was confirmed at the end of trial today. Okay, Muscudi dated Combs' longtime on and off girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Both Ventura and her mom, Regina Ventura, testified that Combs became enraged when he discovered Cassie and Muscudi's fling. A forensic psychologist by the name of Don Hughes and a man named George Kaplan are both also expected to testify before Muscudi. Now, these are likely the expert witnesses. Okay, so with that all being said, hold on. They talk about Special Agent Jared Gannon, who was one of the people on the scene when they did the raids, conducted the raids on Diddy or whatever. Okay, so it's going to be a whole lot more to come. We only have tidbits of the information right now. This is just week 2, and this is going to be at least 6 to 8 weeks, possibly even 6 to 10, okay, according to what they have said. Now, I'm going to get into some of the stuff because I have some information from my source that was actually in court today. Okay, so they say Combs' former personal assistant, David James, returned to the stand to continue his direct examination, testifying about his responsibilities as a personal assistant. Those responsibilities included advance or prepping hotel rooms for Combs, though he did not use the word freak off. James described entering a hotel room and seeing Cassie on the bed, seemingly unconscious, and a naked man scurrying away. Okay, now James said he decided to quit his job in 2009 after the Mel's Diner incident, saying that he realized being a personal assistant to Combs meant putting his life in danger. James said that he drove Combs armed with 3 handguns and his security guard to confront Suge Knight at Mel's Diner after the security guard spotted Suge there and saw someone pass him a gun. Now, on cross-examination, James agreed that he never told the government about driving Combs to Mel's because the government interrupted him while he was relaying his account and told him not to say anything that would incriminate him. Okay, Sheree Hayes, an exotic dancer known as the Punisher, testified that Combs and Cassie brought him into the world of freak-offs. Hayes recalled seeing bottles of baby oil and bowls of water and getting handed a stack of $800 in cash. Okay, Cassie Ventura's mother, Regina Ventura, testified that Combs demanded $20,000 from her and threatened to release explicit sex tapes. Okay, and became very angry that she was dating someone else. Regina said that she felt physically sick when she received the email from Combs, and at that time, Cassie was dating rapper Kid Cudi. Regina said that she and her husband took out a home equity loan to pay Combs because she says, I was scared for my daughter's safety. Okay, this is basically, they sent me the same thing that we already talked about this morning. Didn't really get any new information, okay, from them. Now, with that all being said, they said J-Lo, they said they had questions about J-Lo. She's been quizzed about it. Some people are speculating she's going to testify. I don't think she's going to testify, but they will be bringing her up, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm pretty sure they'll be bringing her up. Now, here's the thing. For those of you who think that Diddy, has not committed a RICO, I think that he absolutely has. Like I told you all this morning, I went through the whole spiel. I told you all the elements of a RICO and how I think that they absolutely have a RICO for Diddy. That Diddy absolutely is committing RICO. And I told you all that me and Gavin we're not going to agree on some things. But the bottom line is they haven't presented that information to the jury. Right now, they're caught up in these freak-offs. And that's why a lot of you are saying, some people are saying, oh, it's just given, domestic violence and all of that. Because that is what it's given. Okay, that's absolutely what it's given right now. So hold on. I'm pulling up these other receipts. Okay. So Cassie's mother, Regina, said she wired the money to a bad boy account per instructions from Combs' bookkeeper. And about 5 days later, she said the money was returned to her account. She did not have any further communication with him after that. She spent no more than 40 minutes testifying, testifying Tuesday with Combs' defense, notably declining to cross-examine her. Now, I think they didn't want to cross-examine Cassie's mother because the information in the email about the extortion when they were asking her for the money or whatever, I think that probably would have come up. And she may have tried to bring that up and give more detail. And I think they really didn't want to talk about that. Well, I know they didn't want to talk about that, but I think that's why they didn't cross-examine her. And also, they really don't have anything that they can catch her up in. She was basically there to corroborate her daughter and also to tell about Diddy extorting her, okay, which is part of a RICO. Now, after the prosecution finished their line of questioning, Combs' defense attorney, Mark Agnifilo, greeted Regina before saying, I don't have any questions for you. Okay, this is the first witness in the case so far that the defense has not cross-examined. Now, while Combs has often been active and engaged during the trial, exchanging confidences with his attorneys and turning to look at witnesses as they enter the room, he avoided looking at Regina when she passed by him on the stand. And as Regina left the courtroom, she tried to make eye contact with Combs, who continued to ignore her. Now, elsewhere during her testimony, Regina spoke about the photos that she took of her daughter in December of 2011 after Combs had allegedly assaulted her. This was the first time Regina said that Cassie had told her about Combs' physically violent abuse, upon her. Regina recalled the photos. She said she was bruised, and I wanted to make sure that we memorialized it. So near the end of her brief time on the stand, she also testified about a bitter argument that she had with Diddy in August of 2016 while visiting her daughter in Los Angeles for her 30th birthday. The argument, she said, erupted outside of Cassie's apartment after Diddy allegedly stole Cassie's phone. She said, we were arguing about the phone. I wanted the phone back and he was holding it, noting that one of Combs' bodyguards was standing between them. She said, I was yelling, screaming, and trying to hit him, and I wasn't successful. Eventually, she said Combs gave up the phone. Now, while on trial last week, Cassie testified that along with threatening to release explicit videos of her and hurt her and Muscati, Combs allegedly discussed blowing up Muscati's car and wanting Muscati's friends to see the explosion. Okay, now why would he want the friends to see it? Cause intimidation. That's another thing of RICO. Okay, I just want y'all to pay attention. That's another part of a RICO. Now, in 2012, a Porsche owned by Muscati was set on fire by an incendiary device, as a contemporaneous police report put it. And Muscati himself previously shared a statement in the New York Times confirming that his car had in fact exploded. Okay, that's another part of a RICO. It's called arson. That's an element of RICO. Okay. Now, Tuesday began with a continued testimony from David James, one of his former assistants. While on the stand, James said Combs hired a former FBI agent to give him a lie detector test to his staff because he said money and possessions were missing and he wanted to know who stole it. Now, pay attention. An FBI agent was working with Diddy. Okay, I told you all, for people that say, well, why didn't they go to the police? Well, that's likely why. And let's not forget about Fahim Muhammad. And Fahim Muhammad was his chief bodyguard, okay, or his chief of security. And Fahim Muhammad also purchased 198 acres of land out there by the southern border. And I happen to wonder why. Okay, that land looks absolutely nefarious out there. Okay, and at the end of the day, it looks like a good place for dumping bodies. Now, I'm not saying he dumped any bodies, but I have questions. Okay, I have questions. There's nothing out there at the southern border other than a whole bunch of violence, cartels, coyotes, and trafficking. Okay, that's what's out there. So why would anybody want to buy all that land out there? I have questions. Okay, for those of you who saw that video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so anyway. Then let's not forget that Mark Agnifilo asked Mr. James if he was granted immunity for his testimony. And he said he didn't really know the specifics. He wasn't really sure. But, sir, how do you not know whether or not you got immunity? How do you not know the specifics? Okay. And then he said that he thinks he signed a proffer. Okay, well, sir, that's something that is basically can keep you from getting into trouble about certain things that you might say. Okay, so anyway, the Punisher, I don't want to get into him because we already talked about that. Okay, so now who else has questions? Now, some of you think that this is all based on domestic violence. Some of you think this is all based on domestic violence. Queen Sam says, if you have to use all those rugs, you need to get out of the game. You know, I think the rug use got worse over time because of the simple fact that they were doing these freak offs so often. And I think they were doing it, you know, using these rugs when they were having the freak offs. But I think over time they became addicted. So, you know, they were not going to get out of anything, beloved, because everything they were doing. I mean, the lifestyle they were living, they were around rugs all the time at parties, you know, everywhere they were going. You know how these people get down in Hollywood and the music industry. Okay. Black Light says, I don't think the juries give if elements are made, they will say guilty because of the DV. Now, some of them will say that. Some of them will say it, but I don't think all of them will. I think some people are going to be so disgusted by the video of him beating the hell out of Cassie that they've already made up their minds that he's guilty. But I do believe that some of them will look specifically at the facts. Okay. But Diddy, in my opinion, is guilty of RICO. And I told you all that this morning. I explained it to you why I think he's absolutely guilty of RICO. Okay. He meets all the elements as far as I'm concerned. He meets every last one of them. Okay. Every last one of them. Aria said, did he extort Cassie's mother? Yes, sure did. Okay. Now, with that all being said, I mean, how low down and dirty is that? I mean, you have to be a low down, nefarious person to drag somebody's mother and father into it. Okay. And then you're sitting up here, you know, basically, hold on, let me pull up this J-Lo article. And then you're sitting up there making her mother and father give you $20,000 because you're mad because she is dealing with somebody else. Okay, that's how petty Diddy is. But the fact that he was extorting the mother, you know, and who else has he extorted? Who else? Now, comments, hold on. J-Lo asked about Diddy. Jennifer Lopez quizzed about being afraid of Diddy in a resurfaced interview amid his bombshell S trafficking trial. Okay, so this is a video. Okay. I'm not going to play that video because it has music in the background and it's only like 33 seconds. So it's not even worth the copyright claim. Okay. Comments Jennifer Lopez made about her ex-boyfriend Diddy in a 2002 interview have resurfaced amid the music mogul's bombshell S trafficking trial. Now, the rapper is currently on trial and we already know what for. So a year after their split in 2001, Lopez reflected on the romance in a primetime special edition interview with Diane Sawyer, who asked her if she was afraid during the relationship. Now, that just goes to show that even back then they knew Diddy was nefarious. Okay, why would somebody ask her if she was afraid of him? Lopez replied that she was not frightened and insisted the relationship was merely not a good fit for her. Now, the video posted by the Instagram account felt it again on Sunday was captioned, "Remember this J-Lo interview?" Okay, so the topic of Diddy came up in the interview with a montage of the pair during happier times, as Sawyer lamented in a voiceover. And what about Sean Combs, Puffy P. Diddy, the man who courted controversy, if not outright danger? He always seemed to be the one in control. We wondered, looking at the girl on the red carpet, who was she? This is what she said in the interview. Now I want you all to pay attention. She said that he always seemed to be the one in control. That's absolutely true. As far as I'm concerned, Diddy was always the one in control. In fact, Diddy is a whole control freak. And I know it's got to be just killing him, eating him alive while he's sitting there in that jail cell and he can't do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. Aqua Girl Rising said, didn't she say if he was drowning, she wouldn't save him? Nah, that's not what she said. They asked her who she would save, Diddy or Ben Affleck. Okay, she said she would save both of them. I'm not sure in what order. Okay, so anyway, that all being said, hold on. I'm going to see if I can find out what Lauren LaRosa had to say today, because she wasn't in the episode of The Breakfast Club this morning. And she was right there in the courtroom. Did you all see Denzel? Wait a minute, I'm gonna have to pull that video up. I almost forgot about that. Did you all see the video of Denzel? Here's Lauren right here. Here we go. I think this is from yesterday. You all see that video of Denzel when the guy was grabbing on him at that festival? Like, what was really going on? I thought Denzel was gonna knock him out. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. And I'm going to put up an overlay. Yeah, he was yelling at the photographer because that man was grabbing on him. Like, I have a problem with people putting hands on me like that. He probably would have got punched. Okay, he probably got punched. I'm going to tell you the truth. I thought Denzel was going to punch him because I definitely would have. Don't put your hands on me, please, especially in an aggressive manner. You're asking for trouble. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Lights up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
So make sure y'all go holler at my on the stand for a bit longer than she was the Friday prior, even though it wasn't super long. So when she took the stand, they began, the prosecution just let her, run down the list of, different incidences that she witnessed when it came to Diddy. One of the things that she talked about was an alleged incident in an LA home where Diddy attempted or hit allegedly Cassie with a frying pan because Cassie was taking too long to fry some eggs. There was another incident that she talked about where she said she saw Diddy hit Cassie in the face allegedly when they were here in New York about to go to this festival in Central Park. Mm-hmm. Another incident she talked about was an incident in LA inside of a restaurant. She says that she alleged there was a ton of employees of Diddy's and different celebrities, including Usher and a bunch of other people. And she alleges that in that event, Diddy and Cassie got to arguing and he hit her. And then they left after that. So now these three incidents, she's going down like, here's everything that happened. She also kind of went back into the whole the frying pan incident when the next day he came in and said, basically, you can't say nothing about this because people go missing. Mm-hmm. So she's detailing all these things and she's talking about, how even for herself and for Kalina Harper, who was her other Dirty Money band member, they were scared. because he had threatened to do something to them. And she said that she'd seen all these acts of physical violence. So she basically knew to stay in her place, even though she said they used to come to Cassie and be like, Cassie, you should leave him. And she said that, they just had to silently sit back and support her because Cassie wasn't ready. Now, that was the prosecution side. When the defense got up there, which is Diddy's team, they tore that testimony to shreds. They poked a lot of holes in it. When it came to the frying pan incident, they talked about the fact that's why I said attempted or actually did allegedly, because according to what they're saying, she said one thing in her interview with prosecutors about whether he actually hit her or not. And then she said another thing on the stand. And according to what they're saying, she said her story went from him actually allegedly hitting Cassie with this frying pan to him attempting to hit, and her just hearing the frying pan hit the wall because she was upstairs or downstairs in this LA home. They also poked holes in the fact that she did not tell the prosecutors, who's the government, that threat that happened a day after allegedly until about a week or two. This is what the defense claims, about a week or two before trial. And they're like, if you were in fear for your life, if you thought that they clarified, what did you think he was going to do to you? She said, I thought he was going to kill us. And they're like, if that was the truth, why did you wait? You met with the government at least 3 to 4 times before they actually found out that. Why did you wait so long? Like, they were just poking, man.
Well, that's the defense's job, though.
It is their job, but I think some of this stuff was so blatant that it's like, again, this is the same issue I had when it came to the prosecutors with Cassie. I didn't understand why they allowed these star witnesses to be so like open out here with all these changes and this information presented only one way. But the prosecution did come back in and they tried to redirect it. They tried to fill in a lot of the bubbles. So like there was one time where Dawn talked about the incident in LA, and she had answered the prosecution. I'm sorry, she answered the prosecution when they asked her who was there, but they asked her what employees were there. So she named employees. Then the defense came in and said, well, why didn't you mention the celebrities that you mentioned prior to, trying to like trip her up? But then the prosecution came back in and said, well, we only asked you about the employees, so please restate, and then she talked a lot about the fact that these things were so long ago. She's remembering more things as they go, but it did get to a point on the stand where Dawn had to say, yes, my story is changing. And it's because it was so long ago. And they were pointing out that they also brought up her civil lawsuit. There was a really...
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining.
Huge misquote in her civil lawsuit that she had to admit to on the stand. She had said that in her civil lawsuit that she saw Diddy drag Cassie through a patch of grass by her hair, allegedly. And the prosecutors the defense is like, well, when did this happen? And she's like, I told prosecutors that was a misquote in my civil lawsuit. So it just made it look like shaky. Like, okay, what happened? You're saying things are changing, but like, how do we know tomorrow this isn't going to change? Like that type of thing. But she kept saying, I'm doing the best that I can do. Carrie Morgan, an ex-best friend of Cassie's for over like a decade, also got on stand, and she just corroborated a lot of the stories that Cassie told us about, them being in Jamaica and Puff getting physical with Cassie allegedly in Jamaica, and them having to hide under a ditch to get away from him allegedly. And she talked about this hanger incident when Diddy allegedly hit her with a hanger coming into one of Cassie's apartments.
Hit the best friend with a hanger.
Allegedly. Now, the defense had tried to make that incident seem like this was Diddy coming to the home being upset that they were allegedly using drugs and trying to save Cassie from that. Cassie and now her best friend or ex-best friend, Carrie Morgan, told the story about this happening because he was upset that he had found out or thought that Cassie was allegedly cheating with somebody. So there was like the whole jealousy conversation.
He paid her off too, right?
Paid her allegedly. Allegedly. Well, she said she received $30,000, right?
$30,000.
Cassie is saying that the $30,000 Cassie has said, and so now has Carrie Morgan, has said that $30,000 allegedly came from Diddy because after that hanger incident where he, allegedly hit her with the hanger, they didn't want her to go nowhere and talk about it. They just wanted to be over. So Cassie showed up, pulled up with an NDA, and offered the $30,000. She took the money, signed the NDA, and moved on with her life allegedly. And they never spoke again since that day. It's been like 17 years.
Never spoke to Cassie again.
No.
I'm starting to realize that people have not read Diddy's indictment, because if you read Diddy's indictment, you understand why they are putting those witnesses on the stand. Because in the indictment, Diddy is being accused of abusing, threatening, and coercing women and others.
Yes.
And he led a racketeering conspiracy that engaged in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. So if Dawn is taking the stand saying she witnessed Diddy controlling Cassie through abuse and violence, and that Diddy told her people go.
Okay, and that's exactly what I was telling you all this morning, guys. That's exactly what I was telling you all, that Diddy has already met all of the elements, every single last one for a RICO. Okay? He's met every single element for a RICO. Now, here's the thing. The feds have not laid it out for the jury as of yet, because these people are coming up there testifying to these different crimes that Diddy's accused of. Kid Cudi's going to come and testify about his car being blown up. That's arson. Okay. They've testified that Cassie was, coerced. Now, we know Cassie said in the text messages that in the text messages, basically, that she did some of the stuff because she wanted to or whatever. But at the end of the day, when you see the video of him dragging her back, that's clearly by force. Okay. That's one of the charges, force, fraud, or coercion. Second of all, here's the thing. With the S trafficking, Diddy has been charged with that under the Mann Act, aka the White Slavery Act. And under that act, all you have to do is transport somebody across state lines for the purposes of prostitution. And that's what Diddy did. Doesn't matter if the people went voluntarily or not. Okay, you took them across the line. It's just like, here's the thing. Jack Johnson, the famous boxer who they created that law for, because they were upset because a wealthy black man, because he was the heavyweight champion, he had money, and he was dating a white woman. Okay, he ended up marrying a white woman. They didn't like that, so they created that law specifically for him. Think about when he took the woman across the state lines. He didn't kidnap her. She went across the state lines because that's what she wanted to do. Okay, but they still locked him up for it. So it doesn't matter if you willingly went. The point is, if they paid you to go, if they took you, even if they didn't pay you till you got there or whatever, or if they paid somebody else to have relations with you, that is still transportation in the for the purposes of prostitution. Okay, so do y'all get that now? Do y'all get that now? Okay, to engage in prostitution. That's just what it is. Okay, so Diddy is going down. I know some of y'all want to save him, but you can't. It's a wrap. Okay, don't be mad at me.
Go missing. If they speak on it, then that's an eyewitness directly giving credence to those charges.
And especially because Dawn talked a lot about Cassie, wanting to have this amazing, bright, beautiful career and being excited, but Puff allegedly controlling everything. The only reason why I said that about the testimony is I'm like, man, why did they do this with these two girls? Because both of them consistently kept saying, I don't know, because it was so long ago. I just, a lot of holes I feel like with the jurors, if they're everyday people, it's like they're seeing that, but it's like there's so much that is like,
but you got to think, right? The defense is the same people that'll look at that tape that we all saw with blatant abuse, and they'll poke holes in that.
Yeah.
So if you put what's the other woman's name?
Carrie Morgan.
Carrie Morgan. She got on the stand and said she was abused by Diddy and that he gave her $30,000. That's bribery to keep her quiet, allegedly. I would just encourage people to go read the indictment, because when you see what the indictment is all about, those testimonies make perfect sense.
And also,
they're slowly but surely building that case for sure.
I know people, though, day by day, like one day they'll be like, oh, the prosecution got it. Next day, Diddy. But like you said, we have about, 5-6 weeks left.
You'll go back and forth every time you hear either one.
Yeah, and they be mad at me because I'll go back and forth. I'll tell y'all like today. Fine, but yesterday I was like, I don't really know, because to your point, they did that, and I was like, okay, the prosecution is getting busy. People just don't know.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. I think we have heard enough. Okay, with that all being said, Diddy's going down. Okay, anybody who's mad, you're just going to be mad. Okay, you're just going to be mad because he's going down, and that's just the fact of the matter. And he needs to go down. Like I said this morning. Okay, I'm not Team Diddy. All right, I'm not Team Diddy. So Lindell said, as of now, I just don't see John being convinced. So far, the defense is also winning. Who's Jean? I don't know what that means, beloved. I'm confused. Okay. So far, the defense is absolutely winning. Well, they might be, but they're not going to win in the end. Okay, that's how that's going to go. They're not going to win in the end, honey, because the prosecution has they're going to prove these elements. Okay. They're going to prove all of these elements because Diddy absolutely has done every last thing. Okay, to make it a RICO. Sorry, not sorry. He absolutely has. Okay, let's talk about it. I told you all this morning, for those of you. Thank you, Aqua Girl Right said, Queen, we are team reality. Exactly. First of all, I don't understand why any black person is sitting here. I don't see why any black person is sitting here trying to defend Diddy. Okay, after all the nefarious things he's done to people who look like him. I'm sorry, please make that make sense. But anyway, I digress. The bottom line is Diddy has done a whole bunch of things. Now, when you think about force, fraud, and coercion, he's forced people to do things, not just Cassie. Okay, not just Cassie. He's forced other people to do things at the end of the day. And he's done this for years. And he's coerced people to do things. He's done this for years. Okay, he has been nothing but a menace. All of these people dropping dead around Diddy, y'all don't think Diddy had a hand in it? People that Diddy had beefs with, people that Diddy just, had signed to him and whatnot or whatever. Y'all don't think Diddy had something to do with any of these things? I'm sure y'all know that he has. Okay, I'm sure y'all know that he has. Some of y'all are just in denial because some of y'all are fanboys and girls and y'all just don't want to accept the truth. The truth of the matter is Diddy is absolutely guilty of RICO. Period. And at the end of the day, had he not given the feds the ammunition to use against him, then maybe he wouldn't be sitting in jail. But he's already done so. And here's another thing. Diddy was working with the feds himself since 1995. I showed the receipts and the proof and the documentation, working for a former FBI agent who's now retired by the name of Mark Parody. Okay, who do you think he was snitching on to the feds? People who look like him. Okay, that's what he was doing. All right, so while y'all sitting up here trying to take up for him, he was sitting there licking the boots of Clive Davis, who don't look like him, Lucian Grange, who don't look like him, and doing things against the people who do look like him. So I'm sorry, y'all need to make yourselves make sense. Okay, at the end of the day, please make it all make sense. All right, I'm sorry, he's going down. And I don't care how long. Okay, OG Patrice said Diddy knows he's going to prison. I believe he just wants to get as many charges dropped as possible to lessen his sentence and hoping he gets less time than the plea deal. But no can do. That's exactly what it probably is, beloved. And also because just like Gavin said, because of civil asset forfeiture, remember I told you all months ago that Diddy, if he's convicted, the feds are coming after everything. All his money. And here's why. Because if he's convicted of a RICO, they can say that all of his properties, all of his money, everything that he's got, all of his assets were acquired and obtained through a criminal enterprise. Okay? They're going to snatch all of it. Okay? And he's got some stuff supposedly, according to Mace, in his mom and his son Justin's names. But they can take that too. Okay? His mom should be lucky that she's not being charged. All right? She's lucky she's not being charged, because when you have things in your name and somebody's proven to be committing illegal acts or whatever, you can absolutely go down too. Okay. Jones said, Queen, what was his plea deal? They didn't release that information, beloved. They never told us what it was, but they did offer him one twice. They offered him 1 month ago, and then they offered him again right before the trial started, like 2 weeks before his trial. And he refused it. Okay. He refused it. Diddy is dirty. Okay. And here's the thing. I don't think that somebody should be charged with a RICO simply because of domestic violence. Because what we saw on the video with Cassie and him, that looks like domestic violence. And that's what it was, in my opinion. But the bottom line is Diddy has done a whole bunch of other nefarious things. When you go so far as to hold things over people's heads and make them do what you want and tell them if they don't do what you want, this is what you're going to do. Okay. At the end of the day, don't y'all think this is a person who you can't put anything past them? Don't you all think that it's very suspicious that all these people turned up dead around Diddy? Like, what are y'all talking about here? Okay. What are y'all talking about here? Y'all don't think he had something to do with Biggie turning up dead, getting killed? Y'all don't think Diddy had anything to do with that? And he made all that money after Biggie, after he was dead. Okay, and don't even get me started on Tupac, because that's really going to tick me off. That's really why I want Diddy to go down. Now, I don't care how he goes down. He just needs to go down as far as I'm concerned. Okay? As far as I'm concerned. Y'all don't think Diddy was putting out hits on people, and not just Tupac and Biggie. Other people as well, as far as I'm concerned. I just think Diddy's a whole damn demon, and he's a menace to society and needs to be off the streets. He should have been off the streets a long time ago. You see, he should have been off the streets when he had those 9 people that lost their lives due to that incident that happened when what was the name of it? City College. Okay, that whole incident with the stampede. Diddy was being greedy. That's why he oversold the tickets, knowing that it was past maximum capacity and 9 people lost their lives. He should have been sentenced then, but he wasn't. He got away with it. But then he should have been sentenced when he went to that club and shot up the place. Okay, but instead, Shine was sentenced. And why was that? Likely because Diddy supposedly paid people to go in there and testify and get shot. Okay? The lady who was shot in the face, Natanya Rubin, said that she saw Diddy was the one that shot her. So y'all don't think Diddy deserves any amount of culpability for the heinous acts that he has perpetuated upon society for 30 plus years? All right. Y'all don't think so? Okay, that's right, Mel, Andre Harrell, and Shakur Stewart. Diddy said that he was going to kill Shakur Stewart. Shakur Stewart turns up dead, and they said it was by self-deletion. I absolutely don't believe it was self-deletion. They might probably made it look that way, but I absolutely believe that Diddy had somebody to take that man out. Okay, let's not forget the autopsy report that I ordered when I did the video about Kim Porter, and I showed y'all the autopsy report. Now, if this woman really died of lobar pneumonia, why did she have those bruises on her? Why did she have contusions? Okay, why was there a blood trail to the bathroom? Okay, and why is it that Dr. Ed Winter, the first medical examiner that was working on her case, who said that he found problematic things and toxins in her blood, why was he all of a sudden fired? And then they hired somebody else. And then this person discounts everything Ed Winter said. Now, mind you, Ed Winter had been in the business for like 20 to 30 years at that time. Okay, he had done the autopsies for Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Brittany Murphy, many people, Prince. Okay, but then he's fired all of a sudden, and then they hire somebody else, and this person says it's lobar pneumonia. But if you all remember when I showed you the autopsy report, okay, didn't it say that she tested negative? Didn't it say she tested negative? Okay, please pay attention. So then how did she all of a sudden die from that? Okay, I'm sorry. Please make it all make sense. Another thing is, at the end of the day, not only that, but then when the family and Kimora Lee Simmons started talking about, you know, having them to reopen the Kim Porter case and to look back into it, then Dr. Ed Winter is dead. Now, you could say maybe he died from old age. He was 72, but it's the timing of it for me. Because right after they started talking about having that autopsy report or having the investigation reopened, and they wanted Dr. Ed Winter to do the investigation, to do the autopsy or whatever, to look into it, after Kim was supposed to be exhumed is what they were hoping for. Now he's dead too. Y'all don't think that's something? Dr. Frank Ryan, who performed Cassie's breast surgery, and Diddy got into it with him because he didn't want to redo it right then and there like Diddy was telling him to do. He said Cassie needs time to heal. She needs to have time to recover before we redo it, because Diddy didn't like how they looked. Diddy made him do it right then and there. And then Diddy had a beef with that man. And then all of a sudden that man's dead. They said he drove off a cliff on his way home and said he was sending a text. Okay, I'm sorry. This is all too much. Black Rob, yes, everybody, honey. I'm sorry. It's a whole lot of people turned them dead around Diddy is all I'm saying. I think Diddy's a whole serial killer, period. Even if he's not doing the actual killing, but getting people to do it, that still makes him a serial killer, in my opinion. And then look at Al B. Sure. Al B. Sure barely escaped with his life. Y'all don't think Diddy had a hand in it? Please, Diddy can go straight to hell as far as I'm concerned. Now, anybody that wants to defend him, you can go right on and do it. But the bottom line is Diddy's on trial right now for his life because he pissed off the same people that he was gatekeeping us for, the same people that he was gatekeeping black folk for. Okay, he pissed them off when he sued Diageo, when he dared to go against them. That's the only reason he's sitting where he's sitting. Because if it had not been for that, they'd still be protecting and covering up for Diddy, because that's what they've been doing for all these years. That's why Diddy never got convicted of anything. That's why none of the charges ever were able to stick. They were protecting him. But then once he did what he did and dared to go against the grain, he was no longer protected. He became a marked man. He became a target. And that's why he's sitting where he is. And he, as far as I'm concerned, has no one to blame but himself. Okay? He has no one to blame but himself. Alpha Omega said the Fed's going to screw up this case. Well, let me tell you something, beloved. You might be right. But here's the thing. The bad news is that even if Diddy is convicted, he may get his case overturned because of prior bad acts, which I've been telling you all this for about a month now. And now his own attorney, Mark Agnifilo, has talked about prior bad acts. This is the same way and the same reason Harvey Weinstein got his conviction overturned. And they've granted him a retrial. Okay, that nobody's really talking about because we're all busy talking about Diddy. But I already talked about Harvey Weinstein and the retrial and why it got overturned before Diddy's trial even started. Okay, so please pay attention. At the end of the day, Diddy's definitely going to bring up, you know, he's definitely going to file an appeal, and they're going to bring up those prior bad acts. And they should never have let Dawn Richard testify, because that's exactly what she brought up, prior bad acts. Kid Cudi's going to testify. He's going to bring up prior bad acts. And I hadn't even thought about that until today when Gavin got on here and said it. Okay, so now I want you all to pay attention as well. For those of you who've been following me, now you know that I told you about the prior bad acts, but Gavin just came on here and confirmed the same thing. Those are problematic because they give out information and evidence that's prejudicial. Okay, so you can go back upon appeal and file all of that. Not to mention, I told you all earlier, before the trial started, his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, actually filed a motion in limine. So when he filed a pre-trial motion in limine, and they still let this evidence be brought into court, that's definitely grounds for an appeal and could get the conviction overturned. Okay, so please pay attention. This is why Mark Agnifilo was trying to keep certain things out of the court. But like I told you, that whole thing with Dawn testifying, basically, that was a bad idea. OG Patrice said Kirk Burrows testifying should be damaging to Diddy too. Hold on. Is Kirk Burrows testifying? Kirk Burrows is testifying? If he is, that's definitely going to be damaging. Okay, that's definitely going to be damaging. See, here's the thing. Diddy has done so much dirt to so many people for so long a time that they got him dead to rights. See, for y'all saying the feds haven't shown the evidence yet, well, they haven't shown the evidence. We're only in the second week of the trial, and this is just the beginning of the second week. There's a whole lot more to come. So just sit back and watch, because they got the receipts on Diddy. I'm going to tell you that right now. They've got the receipts, okay? And y'all that are caping for Diddy, you're going to be sitting here crying and butthurt and mad when it all goes down. But it's going down, trust me, okay? It's all going down at the end of the day. And so he can sit up there in court. And let me tell y'all something. Remember how I told you all how Diddy's going to be dressing in court? And remember how I told you all how the Menendez brothers wore those sweaters and those button-down shirts with the collars and all that stuff? And that's how they got a hung jury in the first trial, because it made them look all innocent. But then when they came back for the second trial, they had on their prison clothes because the judge wouldn't let them wear regular clothes. So they looked definitely like criminals. And maybe that's why, that's part of the reason they got convicted. Okay. Diddy wearing the sweaters, like I told y'all Diddy was going to do, that's not going to help him. Diddy can still look guilty. And in fact, you look crazy as hell. Because why are you wearing sweaters? Okay. Why is he sitting up there wearing sweaters? He should have just worn suits. Wearing sweaters every day in trial, thinking that's going to make you look innocent. The reason it worked for the Menendez boys, let me pull up the picture, because they were not teenagers, but they were young men. Okay. They were young men. And they were also white, Diddy, okay? I'm sorry, please make it all make sense. Diddy definitely thought that was going to work for him, but no, it's not. It's not going to work at all, okay? Hold on, let me go to the picture so y'all can see how innocent they look. This ain't going to work for you, Diddy. Hold on. It is right here. Lights up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Nubian Cutie said he can rot in prison. He sure can. He can rot in hell, as far as I'm concerned. See them in the sweaters? They look a whole lot different than Diddy in a sweater. Diddy sitting up there trying to wear a sweater and glasses like Eric Menendez. Okay? See how Eric's wearing the glasses, the schoolboy glasses and the sweater, and his brother right beside him? Yeah, he thinks that's going to work for him. No, it's not. Diddy, we know you're the devil, okay? And the fact that people have seen that video of him beating the hell out of Cassie is only going to add credence to some people's minds, because they're going to feel like that's enough for him to be guilty, even though I don't agree. Him beating Cassie doesn't mean that he's involved in the whole RICO. But what means he's involved in the whole RICO for me is the arson, the coercion, the extortion, the intimidation, and the threats, okay? And all of the other nefarious things that he's done, okay? Putting out hits. Y'all want to say, some people want to say he shouldn't be charged with RICO, but Diddy acts like a mob boss, so he should be treated like one. RICO was invented for mob bosses. He wants to go around acting like he's John Gotti, then let's treat him like John Gotti. And that's what they're doing, okay? Period. That's what they're doing. Marie James said it really didn't work for them either. Yeah, it did, because that's why they got a hung jury. At the end of the day, like I said, when they came back with the regular clothes on, with the prison clothes on, that's when they got found guilty. So it actually did work for them. Okay, because the jury couldn't decide whether they were guilty or innocent. I mean, they knew that they killed their parents. That was obvious. But they couldn't decide on the motive behind it at the end of the day. And it resulted in a hung jury. So it absolutely did work for them. Like I said, when they came back in prison garb, that's when they were found guilty. And they looked guilty. So optics is very significant when it comes to a court of law, especially when you're accused of something nefarious. Okay? Especially then. Yeah. Marie said, I forgot about the second trial. Don't kill me. I'm not going to kill you, beloved. But I'm just saying, at the end of the day, yeah, that second trial, they look like some criminals. They look totally different. Aria said a frico, not a rico. Well, I said that the other day too. I said, is Diddy guilty of a frico or a rico? Well, you know, clearly it's a rico. All right. So with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. Listen, I'm glad Gavin stopped in for a few minutes just to give us some of his legal expertise or whatever. I don't agree with everything Gavin says. We do have differences of opinions on much of the Diddy stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, I can respectfully agree to disagree. And that's what we all need to do. Okay, some of y'all be trying to go in on me because y'all don't like my take on things. That's all fine. You don't have to agree with me, and I don't have to agree with you. But let's not get mad and go in on people. Okay. Gwendolyn said Diddy looks like old Grady Wilson in those funky sweaters. In those old funky sweaters. Okay. Nubian Cutie said it's everything he's been doing this type of stuff for years. Yes, absolutely. Who wants to defend him? This man's a whole menace. Okay. Do y'all want to defend him? The ones that want to defend him, do you want to do so just because he's black? Because that's crazy. Because no matter what race he is, the things that he's done over the past 3 decades are absolutely egregious and clearly nefarious. And every dog, as they say, has their day. And now here's Diddy's day. Okay. And I hope it ends with him walking into a prison cell with the doors slamming and him spending the rest of his days there. Because had he not had Tupac killed, Tupac could still be here. And who knows what he could have accomplished in his lifetime. I mean, he accomplished so much in his 25 years. Who knows what else he could have had in this world at the end of the day. So my thing is Diddy needs to go down, period. That's right. Mel said Diddy is a menace to society. Absolutely. Absolute 72 said innocent till proven guilty. Yeah, that's true, beloved. I absolutely agree. And due justice, okay, for everybody, or due process for everybody. Exactly. But they're going to prove Diddy guilty. I mean, y'all don't have to believe me, okay? Because if you don't believe me, just watch. Just watch, because it's going down, and so is Diddy. All right, so with that all been said, thank you, we the people, beloved. I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. And I will see you all in the morning, okay, at 9 a.m., so we can follow the rest of the trial, okay? And Kid Cudi, well, they said he may testify tomorrow, but it may be Thursday. But either way, we're going to be here for it. All right. So I'll talk to you all soon. Enjoy the rest of this day. All right. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive. Did I already say that? I think I did. Anyway, y'all keep the Most High first in your lives. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me?